So, but of course, any actions will have to be unanimous then. So, at any rate, let me commence the meeting. Good evening and welcome to the December 7th, 2020 meeting of the Town of Brookfield Zoning Board of Appeals, or ZBA. First, let me introduce the members of the ZBA who are present here this evening. I'm Robert Marconi, Chairman of the ZBA. Neil Capola, our Vice Chair, is present. Juliana Zach, our Secretary of the ZBA, is present. Louise Trojnowski Marconi is present. I believe the other members are not present. So our Zoning Enforcement Officer, Mr. Fran Lally, is present, and our Recording Secretary, Allison Kennedy, is present. So the current agenda can be found under board meetings on the Town of Brookfield's website. What I will do is I will call each applicant one at a time. When I call your property address, please come forward and tell us about your appeal, even though we do have all the appeal documents in front of us. After we have gone through all the cases on the agenda tonight, the evidentiary portion, we will then close the public evidentiary portion of the meeting, but then we'll go back and deliberate in open executive session. You must have at least 4 affirmative votes to have your appeal granted. And since we have only 4 members, that means you will have to have a unanimous vote, and you have to consent to having your case heard by less than 5 members. So we will be asking you to consent on the record. And if you don't, if you want to wish until we have 5 members available at a subsequent meeting, do let us know. You're welcome to stay to the end of the meeting or contact the land use office in the morning. Since we actually have only 2 cases on the agenda, it's worthwhile to stick around to hear the results. So note that in regards to any appeal that is granted by this board, it's constrained to the plan submitted and to any purposes stated in the application, unless this board specifically notes otherwise. Now, the public evidentiary hearing is only one aspect of the approval process. It's for the purpose of accepting factual information and data bearing on this application. It allows expression of opinion by interested parties, such as neighbors. The final decision may be in the form of approved as submitted, approved with stipulations or conditions, or disapproved. After reading into the record the correspondence received by the board relative to this application, we will ask the applicant to present the application in detail. The chair will then entertain questions of clarification from board members concerning the applicant's presentation. We will then hear from those who wish to speak in favor of the application, followed by those who are opposed to the application. Following each side of the question, the applicant will be allowed to make some concluding remarks. So all questions and comments must be directed through the chair. As you are recognized, please state your name and address each time before you speak so that your comments may be legally recorded. Please be assured that everyone will be given the opportunity to speak. However, the board is most interested in hearing factual information relative to the application. And in view of time constraints placed upon us, we always ask your indulgence in not simply reiterating and repeating comments previously presented. Although if you happen to agree with comments presented, just let us know that you agree with them too. So with that in mind, let's move on to our agenda. And the first item on the agenda is the review of the minutes of our November 9th, 2020 meeting. I'll take a motion to review to approve the minutes.
So moved.
Okay. Okay, so Juliana moved and Louise seconded. Okay, are there any corrections, comments, changes to the minutes that need to be made? Hearing none, I'll take a vote on it. All in favor of approving the minutes of November 9th, 2020, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. That seems unanimous. Okay. We have had in our package correspondence, minutes of other boards and commissions. That is for our own benefit and education. We don't have to act on it. Now, let me see. It was included in our package, the approved Zoning Board of Appeals meeting schedule for the 2021 calendar year. We approved that at the last meeting, as you all recall, as our minutes reflect. So we don't have to take any action on that. So now we'll move on to the public hearings. The first public hearing is for 16 Brookfield Meadows. It is application Z-20-120. And I would ask the applicant, are you present, sir? That's
Yes, I'm present. This is Paul Honorato, 16 Brookfield Meadows.
okay. Welcome to the Zoning Board of Appeals, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, we have your application, but can you just give us the plain English rundown summary of the application and anything you want the board to particularly highlight?
Sure. The deck that was attached to our home was failing, that it was rotting, that actually my daughter stepped through portion of it. So that's turned into us needing to taking it down and replacing it. And what we'd like to do, instead of just keeping the exact same footprint, we'd like to expand it a little bit. And from my understanding that we are pre-existing non-conforming, because it appears that we were in an up zone, up to an R40 zone. So that's why we're looking for asking for a variance.
All right. Seems to be straightforward. I'd like to ask any members of the board if you have any questions or comments.
I have a I have full disclosure. I'm friends with Paul and his family. I'm very familiar with the property, and I saw the deck before it was taken down. It was in bad shape, and this is, as far as the front lot line is concerned, it's going back in the same spot. I just want to remind Paul, he's got to he shouldn't rely on the GIS survey when he locates his deck. Otherwise, it's straightforward, and the expansion of the deck would be fitting with the neighborhood. And the other one was kind of small. You put a table on it, and there wasn't any room to move. The grill was right in the house.
I should ask Paul, actually, there are two things I should do. Is first, Paul, do you have any objection, sir, to having your application heard by 4 members?
No, it's okay.
Okay. Second, I'm going to ask Fran Lawley, did we have any additional correspondence in that was not in our packets?
There's none has been submitted, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, very good.
And can I say one more thing?
Of course.
I understand it's what Mr. Coppola said as far as the not going off the GIS. So I am getting a survey done of the property beforehand. Right. So this way I'll have it on the front end, and then we'll get I guess it's called an as-built once it's completed. So this way I'm staying true to what should be done as far as the survey goes.
Well, appreciate that. That is required. Okay. Well, I thank you. Let me ask, are there any other board members who have questions or comments? Okay, hearing none, let me just ask, is there any member of the public who wishes to speak in favor of this application? Hearing none, is there any member of the public who wishes to speak in opposition to this application? Okay, I'm going to take a motion to close the evidentiary portion of this proceeding.
So moved, Louise.
Okay, Louise moves. The second.
Yep.
Neil seconds. Okay. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay. So I'm going to ask you, sir, if you can just wait until we hear the other application, and then we will go and deliberate. So we'll have an answer for you fairly shortly.
Okay, thank you.
All right, quite welcome. So let's move on to the next application. It is 1030 Federal Road. The application is Z-20-121. And I'd like to have the applicant, come forward and present the application to us. And I know we have the application, but in other words, verbally present it.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Ward Mizuko. I'm a lawyer in Danbury.
Mr. Chairman, may I interrupt? Should we ask him first if he has any objection to having just 4 members before he presents everything? just
You're
in case.
You're absolutely right. So do you have any objections, sir, to 4 members?
Thank you for looking after me. We're willing to proceed with 4 members, and we appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you.
So I'm pleased to be here this evening on behalf of LAD Numero Duo LLC concerning property at 1030 Federal Road. Consists of about 4.5 acres in your commercial Gateway North district on the west side of Federal Road. Now, I did put a PowerPoint together that might help me move through things faster, but probably not quite as fast as Mr. Honorato managed to do it. If I could use my share screen with my PowerPoint, then I can. Is that all right, Allison?
Yep, you're all set. You can share your screen
right,
when you're ready.
Is that all right, Mr. Chairman?
Absolutely.
Okay, I hope you can see that all right, because I'm no expert at all this.
I can see it fine.
Okay, great. So the first thing I have is a, let me see if I can enlarge this. There we go. Aerial photograph. Obviously, the property is tagged here. This is Federal Road. Here's the new Route 7. This is the current or former Asian restaurant. I think this property may be owned by the DOT now. And the next slide gives us a little more detail. This is a survey that was created for purposes of the state taking some property to the rear. But you see the building illustrated in front. There's a building in the rear. And the building in front is about 190 feet long, so far as I can tell, and consists of 2 stories, and it's set back from the road close to 150 feet. Obviously, this map is not to scale, but that's the best I can determine. In the CGN zone, the required setback, I believe, is 25 feet. I was a little confused by something in the regulations, but it could be 50 feet for multifamily. But in any event, this building, as I said, is upwards of 150 feet off the road. The building itself, it's all familiar to you. It was built over 30 years ago. It's been family owned and operated for most of that period. And for the most part, the Sproviero family had it. They eventually sold the building, and over the years, several things developed in the neighborhood and in the hotel industry. There was a spurt of hotel growth in Danbury. There are probably dozens of hotels and motels in Danbury now, as it has grown as a commercial center. And among hotels in general, there's been a trend toward chain ownership and away from family-owned establishments such as this. And then what created real pressure, of course, was the construction of the road to the rear, which took a lot of traffic off of Federal Road. So if people want to make a reservation ahead of time, they deal with a chain, they're not going to come here. And if the owner depends on street traffic, there's simply a lot less of it, thanks to the highway to the rear. So this created pressure on the buyer of the property, who then ended up turning it back over to the Sproviero family. And the Sproviero family and David Hawley are behind the current application. And then you add in COVID-19. So now you have COVID-19 is sort of the last nail in the coffin. And this building is simply no longer viable as a hotel. So there's a need to repurpose it. And this chart here is from an industry publication. It has a number of statistics about occupancy rates and revenue declines and all that. But I think the sum and substance of it, and I'm sure you can relate this to your own personal experience, is that the hotel industry is in dire straits and would take years to recover. So the building, fortunately, is in good condition and very suitable for multifamily development. But we ran into one problem at the outset, and that is that in the CGN zone, you needed a minimum of 5 acres before you were entitled to have multifamily. So we went to the zoning commission and we explained our plight as we're doing with you this evening. And the proposal we brought for them was to change the regulations from a requirement of 5 acres to 4 acres in the CGN for multifamily. And as you can see from this approval letter, the zoning commission saw fit to approve it, recognizing with the advice of the planning commission that indeed this property is well suited to multifamily. So at that point, we encountered section, this is, pardon me, it's section 3.14F of the regulations. And you can see from the highlighted provision that in residential zones, the maximum number of dwelling units permitted in any one multifamily structure is 4 units. And in other zones, basically 6 units in a 1 or 2 story building. So that created a problem in that the size of this building, I should point out that I have the proof of service here. The problem, of course, is that for a building of this size, to convert that to 6 units would mean that we'd have 6 very large units, which would be very suitable for large families, perhaps, but not really an active part of the real estate market. Or alternatively, if the building was raised, which would be a terrible result since it is in good structural condition, 6 separate 6-unit buildings could be built, but they would probably be moved closer to the street. So in light of that, the proposal before you tonight is a variance to 3.14F to increase the number of units for the building from 6 to 14. So let me try to take you through what's existing and what's proposed. The front building currently contains 28 hotel units, 14 downstairs and 14 upstairs, and each one has a bathroom. And in the center of the building, there's a conference room upstairs and a small reception area downstairs. The building has 4 exits, 4 means of egress from the upstairs, just to begin to address fire safety, which I'll return to in a moment. The proposal is to combine the 14 units into combine the 28 hotel units into 14 multifamily units with 7 on the first floor and 7 on the second floor. There would be a door installed between each of the combined units, and one of the bathrooms would be removed and replaced with a kitchen. So then it would be a fully functioning apartment. Now, of those units, 12 on each floor would be 1-bedroom units, and 2 would be 2-bedroom units. And the reason for the 2-bedroom units is to take advantage of the conference room on the second floor and the reception area on the first floor, since that provide some additional space to work with. The one bedroom units would be obviously most suited to singles and to couples. And without the variance, if the building were to remain, we'd have to have, as I said, very large units that would be well more than 2 bedrooms each, and that they would cater to families. When we went to the zoning commission for the change in regulations, they did comment that they would like us to focus on single bedroom units to the extent we could, or not exclusively, of course, but to concentrate the mix on 1 bedroom units. So I started to consider what exactly drives the regulation. What's the rationale behind limiting the number of multifamily units to 6? And I've heard that fire safety was part of it, and I'm imagining that sheer bulk may have been part of it. So in terms of fire safety, we're very fortunate here because the building code requires sets different standards for hotels and multifamily. And for hotels, the standard is higher. And when this was built as a hotel 30 years ago, it met, obviously, the hotel standards. The building is sprinklered, and it has, each demising wall consists of 2x6 sill plate stagger studded with 2x4 studs, weaved insulation, fireproof soundboard on each side, and FirePro sheetrock on each side. The floor is a poured concrete with fireproof soundboard on the top and fire-rated carpeting. And each room is hardwired with smoke and heat detectors with a sprinkler. So if fire safety was an objective behind the limit of 6, I think this building goes above and beyond what could be expected of the typical multifamily dwelling. And if the concern is also, could there be an effect on other nearby properties through combustion? The answer is probably no. If you look at what's nearby, we're not in a dense environment that would suggest spreading fire. Now, there is our own building in the back, and we may put another small building in the middle, but there would be more than adequate separation for fire safety purposes. And my clients have discussed this with the fire marshal's office and have told me that the fire marshal's office would have no objection to a conversion to 14 multifamily units. And ultimately, we have to satisfy the fire marshal no matter what we do. So, one thing I should mention, only because I remember the chair's comment about approved per plan submitted. The request extends only to the front building here. We're not proposing to have more than 6 units in any other existing or proposed building on the property. I want to assure you of that. But also, we are looking into developing another building. And this back building, which has 10 units, would be converted to 5, which would be conforming. But I just want to alert the board that to those circumstances as you consider the proposal. So
it would make sense to make sure you could use all the buildings on the property if you could.
Yes, and we know we can put the rear one to use, and the new one would be designed to code, and it's only the front building that would for which we would seek the variance.
Right. So we're just voting tonight on just the front building.
Right, and I also would hope that the approval wouldn't interfere with the opportunity to develop an additional conforming building.
Yeah, I see no reason.
Okay. So now to the ultimate question, what's the hardship? And that, of course, deals with the unique features of the property. We have a large existing structurally sound building, which has become obsolete for its historic use as a hotel, has to be repurposed. We have 28 existing units, and the most practical use would be a reconfiguration into 14. Again, because of the historic use of the building as a hotel, the building is uniquely fire safe because of meeting the hotel fire safety standards. It's distant from other combustible properties, and the building is less bulky than others in the neighborhood. I wanted to point that out again. If you just look at the bulk of these buildings, for example, as they're presented to drivers, they're bigger. This one at least is closer to the road. And our building, again, is set back upwards of 150 feet. And as you can see from this roadway photo, it's not an imposing structure. In addition, we believe from the guidance of the Zoning Commission that the town would favor one-bedroom units predominantly anyway to lower demand on town resources. So for all of those reasons, we respectfully request the board to act favorably on the variance. And if there are any questions or comments, I'd be happy to address them.
This is the last hotel in Brookfield, isn't it?
That's a good question. My clients are on the call and they may know better than I would. Dave, Lou, do you know?
Not specifically, but I believe you're right.
Thanks.
Yeah, I don't know of any other one either.
Yeah, this could be the end of an era. But at any rate, let me ask all the members of the board if you have any questions or comments. And let me start off with our vice chair, Neil.
Do the owners have any plans to soften the front of the building with some landscaping, some plants? It's an industrial looking hotel right now. You're gonna make an apartment building out of it. I'd like to see some plantings between the building and Route 7 or 202.
Yeah, David Hawley, I'll be happy to answer that. And the answer is an affirmative yes. The front of the building itself as well. When we went to the Zoning Commission, we talked about an Avalon type building, if you know what that means.
Yep.
Avalon is a big apartment developer. They do a very nice job making very residential, pleasing looking buildings. The area in front, you can see the giant grass area in front there. We need to do that in order to make this marketable to people. So absolutely, we plan to do that.
Okay, that's I'm kind of on board with it. It's a good existing building, and we can always use smaller apartments for people.
Okay, any other members of the board with questions or comments?
I have a question, actually more of a request to explain a little bit if you guys have considered anything in regards to the exception that is required under this legislation as far as the density bonus.
We've had no you mean affordable units?
Exactly.
Yeah. At this point, no, we've not had any consideration for that. We think the site, we're planning on 35 units. We think it's a great site for that many units. You know, we may not own this forever, so somebody else can come in, but at this point, we're not planning on any affordable units.
Thank you.
Okay, any other board members? Okay, let me start. Oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry, if I could just further answer
Of course.
board member's question. If we were going affordable, of course, we wouldn't need the variance.
Right.
We've gone that route. So the fact that we're going for the variance demonstrates and confirms that there's no intention to use 8-30G, for example.
All right.
Mr. Chairman, if I could just indicate one thing
Yes.
too. The town does have a moratorium on affordable. And from what I understand, the town is looking to renew that moratorium. So just for the record.
All right. Any other questions or comments from members of the board? Are there members of the public who wish to speak in favor of this application? Hearing none, are there any members of the public who wish to speak in opposition to this application? Hearing none, I'll just ask if the applicant has any final closing remarks before we close the evidentiary portion.
No, I'd just like to thank you all very much for your time. I know it was a lengthier presentation than you usually get, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thorough presentations are always appreciated. Let me take a motion to close the evidentiary portion of this proceeding.
I'll make a motion.
Okay, Neil, you moved, and Louise seconded. Okay, all in favor? Aye. Okay, we're going to close the evidentiary portion. And now we'll go back to the first application, which is 16 Brookfield Meadows, Z-20-120. And I'll take a motion to approve as submitted.
So moved.
Okay, Neil, a second. Juliana seconds. Okay. So any comments before we vote on this?
No, it's pretty straightforward. He's upzoned. He's close to the road anyway. You know, it wasn't his placing the house there that did that.
Right,
So-
upzoned, it's pre-existing, and again, I guess the shape of the lot and everything are so I'll take a vote on approving this application as submitted. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, opposed? So we have 4 in favor, so the application is approved. So,
Thank you.
oh, you're quite welcome. So it was worth waiting.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so we're going to move on to the next application then. The 1030 Federal Road Z-20-121. Why don't I take a motion to approve as submitted, and then we can work from there? A motion?
So moved.
Neil? So moved?
Yep.
Louise second. Okay. Now, we were talking about plantings. Neil, did you want to have this be conditional or?
No, I don't think we need to have it conditional. They're already on board with doing it. They see the need to improve the looks. You're gonna get better clients in there if it looks more like a nice neighborhood instead of a tired motel.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
actually
so-
have an issue with this application, Mr. Chairman.
Yes,
And then maybe we can have a little bit of a discussion here as far as
Of
the
course.
necessity of this exception here being looked into it. Am I reading this wrong that they are requesting to have 14 units when they could only have 6? So in order for them to have 14, they would have to qualify under the exception. And here there's absolutely no affordable housing. Therefore, there should not be the additional rooms or units. Isn't that the reading of the legislation?
Well, we do have, as Fran said to us, we do have a moratorium on affordable housing requirements.
Still, even if
yes.
we have a moratorium on the housing, we have to not take into consideration just the fire hazards that he was talking about, but the population, the traffic, the safety. There are so many issues that have to be discussed when you're talking about increasing the number of units in a town like Brookfield. And then the hardship that was mentioned, in my opinion, is not really a hardship. So it shouldn't qualify for a variance.
Well, then the question I'm just wondering is, now, even with the moratorium, that doesn't keep somebody from deciding to make some of those units affordable, does it? I don't.
Well, but they said that they have no intention of making any of the units affordable.
Okay.
That was their comment. No consideration of affordable housing.
We could put in a condition.
I'm sorry, I'm not willing to accept it, to grant it.
Okay.
There's too many things here, and the hardship is just not clear to me.
Okay.
There was a lot of talk in regards to fire safety and the look that the structure, not an imposing structure, but those are not hardships.
All right.
You're right. The state didn't take enough acreage away to qualify them for the 4 acres instead of 5. We changed that for them.
Yeah, I have a real issue with this. I'm sorry.
Okay. Would at this point then, would the applicant want to withdraw his application at this point?
Thank you for raising that point, Mr. Chairman. I was wondering if there's whether I can do that and resubmit, or is it possible to reopen the hearing and just continue it to your next session?
Well, I would take a vote on the by the commission, by the board here. I mean, certainly I'll give you, I think we can give you the option if you had wanted to withdraw it at this point and resubmit, but
Maybe he can submit without prejudice.
okay.
That will be giving him a second chance, but I think, in my opinion, I'm not granting, so it wouldn't, I don't think would be a continuance. I think would be properly done. The way to be properly done would be withdrawing without prejudice to them, so they can have the case reheard again. And if we have a 5-member panel, and if I still continue to decline it, at least he will have a second chance. I mean, I'm trying to be as fair as possible, but
Right. Plus council sees your objection and could possibly retailer a application to meet it.
Yep.
that's right.
Mr. Chairman, I will on that basis withdraw, and I appreciate the consideration of all the members, but I'm wondering if I could understand a little better what the concern is so that I can address it better, because I want to make everybody satisfied to the extent that I can.
Well, I'd like to, address that then to our member Juliana, if you could address.
Yeah, I
that.
believe if you can next time discuss the hardship in further details, not necessarily making so focus on the fire hazards and the structure of the building itself, like the way you mentioned, like that it was an imposing structure. That I think moving away from the fire safety, that to me would demonstrate hardship in a better way. We really need to show hardship, and I don't think the way you demonstrated today was sufficient to me, if that makes any sense.
Okay. Well, maybe I can also check with Fran after the meeting, and he can help me organize my thoughts on that. And we'll do our best to present it more favorably next time. I'm very grateful for the input.
Certainly. So that application is hereby withdrawn, and I think we have no other business before the boards. Well, although I'll basically ask any members if there's anything else they need to raise. Okay.
Nothing further.
Nothing further. So at this point, then I think I'll call for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Okay, second.
Excuse
Okay.
me, Mr. Chairman, Since the motion was made by Vice Chair Capola to approve, do you need to complete that motion or withdraw that motion?
Why don't we have Vice Chair withdraw his motion if he wishes?
I'd like to withdraw my motion.
Okay, I don't think we need to vote on that.
Okay.
So that motion is withdrawn. So at this point, now there is no further business on our agenda for tonight. So first of all, what I'm going to do before we adjourn, I'll just wish all of you a very happy and safe holiday season. Whatever holidays you wind up celebrating, please make sure you do it safely. Okay.
Okay.
So
Same.
at any rate,
Same
I'll
to
take a vote on the motion to adjourn. All in favor? Aye. Okay, we are adjourned.
Okay.
Thank you.
And thank you very much,
Good
Allison.
night.
All right.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.
Night.